First things first, Ric Bucher back with us this morning. Sixers Heat. Game 1, Rick. Could James Harden and the Sixers steal one without Embiid? We learned last night the answer is no. No, he could not. That is a thing he could not do. Not when he only goes for 16 points. Not when the Sixers missed 28 of their 34 attempts from three. Not when I ask the question like that, at least. Heat win Game 1, 106-92. For Harden, that's now 11 straight playoff games that he's been held under 25 points. How very un-Harden of him. Rick, did Game 1 prove that James Harden cannot carry the Sixers with Embiid sidelined?
I didn't even know this was a question still at this point. But yes, I would say it didn't. I would say that it confirmed, not proved, confirmed that James Harden can't carry the Sixers without Joel Embiid. But I didn't know that we were actually talking about that at this point. I will say this. I don't know that it's a matter of even ability at this point as much as it is conditioning. To me, that was the most glaring, most evident thing that I got out of this game, which was Harden can do certain things. He just can't do them very long. And as he went, the Philadelphia 76ers went. To me, Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris had a bigger imprint on this game simply because they could play for 4 quarters. And I didn't see that with James Harden. And I'm not overwhelmed by what Miami did. I thought they struggled to put this game away far more than I would have expected without Joel Embiid. But this is where James Harden is at this point. And we can look at the hamstring. We can come up with all sorts of excuses. But if this is going to be a series of perseverance and resilience and going against the Miami Heat, that's generally what a series becomes, then James Harden is not the guy that is going to get you there, because those are not calling cards for James Harden at this point in his career, if they ever were, Chris.
Yeah, they certainly aren't. Not now. And what you described, Rick, is a guy that is not what he used to be, a guy that has lost a step, and a guy that is getting older. Now, he's still a good player, but we're judging him by his standards that he set over the past decade. And I think whether it's the hamstring, you mentioned conditioning, which could be related to age. And I think people still think of James Harden as a guy that's, I wouldn't say young, but certainly right in the heart of his prime. And I'm saying James Harden has already played a full career. And if indeed he is losing it, it's not unnatural. It's not unusual. It's not like, wow, it hit him so quickly. How'd he lose it at such a young age? He'll be 33 in August. And if you look at this graphic, you'll see he has played more regular season games than Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Allen Iverson. All right, they all played 13 years. This is Harden's 13th season. Iverson played 14 years. And so I think he is slowing down. The hamstring, did that, push him in that direction more so? Maybe. But he clearly doesn't have the burst. He clearly can't blow by defenders the way he used to be able to. And certainly you're not going to be able to do that against a tough Miami Heat defense. And so Harden, is just can't do what he used to do. And here's a very telling stat from last night. He made or assisted on only 1 field goal over the final 20 minutes. So that goes to your point, Rick, of
not good.
He can still do it here and there in spurts. And he can still have a great game, maybe 1 out of every 4 or 5 games. But he can no longer do it consistently. And if you don't have Joel Embiid there, you really don't have much of a chance if you're expecting Harden to carry you, Wilds.
So here's the most surprising thing to me. Obviously, all players' game will dissolve a little bit. But the ego usually stays intact. We saw it famously with Carmelo, they want me to come off the bench. It's like, yeah, you should come off the bench because Carmelo's game had gone down, but the ego was still strong. We saw it this year with Russ. Hey, Russ, you're not that good of a shooter, and you can't really finish at the rim like you used to. Game was down, but the ego was here. For Harden, it's almost like the game went down, but the ego went down even further because he's not even attempting shots. It's like he can't get into his rhythm, and he's lost all confidence. He took 4 shots in a game where Embiid wasn't around in the second half. They were winning at halftime. This is a chance, and I don't think we can downplay this. This was a chance to take down the #1 seed at home. They played a bad game without Embiid. There was no Kyle Lowry. They were ripe for the picking. All Harden needed to do was show a little bit of confidence, and he could have stolen this game, and he didn't. And I believe it. I think it's a little bit of conditioning. It's a little bit of age maybe. But I think more than anything, Jenna, he lacks a confidence that we haven't seen other superstars miss as their game deteriorates.
All right, well, Harden wasn't the only story last night. Nick, when we talked about this game earlier, your issue was Doc's decision to play DeAndre Jordan and to continue to play DeAndre Jordan and to double down on it. Listen to what he said. But first, brought to you by Pacifico. Live life, anchors up. Sixers Heat, Game 1. Could James Harden and the Sixers steal one without Embiid? We learned last night the answer is no. No, he could not. Not when Harden goes for 16 points, not when the Sixers miss 28 of their 34 attempts from 3, and certainly not when I phrase the question like that. Heat win, 106-92. Not that the Heat played that great either, but for Harden, that is now 11 straight playoff games. He's been held under 25 points. So, Broussard, I'll start with you. Did Game 1 prove Harden cannot carry the Sixers with Embiid sidelined?
Yes, it was the latest evidence. I think many of us knew that already, but it furthered the narrative that no, that James Harden is gone. And everybody keeps saying we need the Houston Harden. That Houston Harden doesn't exist anymore for a couple of reasons. Number one, it might be age and wear and tear. All right, James Harden is in his 13th season, and if he were to begin fading right now, which I think he has, it's not like he's young. I think people have this perception that, he's still young. Why in the world isn't he the same player? No, look at these numbers. James Harden has played more career games in the regular season than Allen Iverson played, Magic Johnson, and Larry Bird. And they all played 13 seasons, save Iverson, who played 14. So my point is that Harden has had a complete career already. So if he is beginning to fade, which he is, it's not out of the ordinary. It just is what it is. He'll be 33 years old in August. And you can clearly see, guys, he can't blow by defenders anymore. He doesn't have the same burst, whether it's age or the hamstring injury that seems to be the worst in the history of the NBA Wilds. He can't do it. Secondly, Mike D'Antoni's not coaching this team. And James Harden is legitimately great in his own right, but Mike D'Antoni's offense was tailor-made for him. The only years that Harden averaged 30 or more points was in Mike